Okay, so in the first video of this, like replay review series, um, I covered KSK versus KSK versus Knee replay with Neo and Brian. So I figured that it would make a lot more sense to cover like basically the other main Kazuya player that's known for the character that currently still plays, which is Ikari. And this is another set versus Knee, but Knee is on Paul this time. So in T8, Paul and Brian like can somewhat be played a bit similarly compared to the past because they gave Paul like kind of like a somewhat of a hatchet kick, which is really crazy. Like if we're talking about historical context of the game, but he also gave him DF4, which is like a counter hit knee that he has now that he can just do, and he also has low whiff recovery on some buttons. Not that that's a thing that's especially like particular to Brian, but I wanted to look at an Akari replay because um the fundamentals of a mishima are the fundamentals. So even though Keisuke and Akari have two different play styles, it's very easy to point out the things that they do that are just foundational to Mishimas, and also things that they like to do, particularly as players. And I also have Tekken 7 sets of Keisuke and Akari versus people. One of them being, I think it's Akari versus Boa Loveby, so we're going to look at that. And I plan to look at sets from like a past games. I want to do like a series on like fundamental poking like replays, those types of things. But let's get into this replay.
Round one. Fight.
So let me just pause it right there, and just go back. So you can see that Akari is doing like a very stiff like backdash that's like pretty slow. And if you remember, if you saw the KSK video, there was a portion where I pointed out that KSK was doing like a very stiff and very like pausey type of backdash to set up counter hit electric. What does Akari do right here? So he does his little backdash or whatever, he blocks his button, and then he slightly delays an electric. So same thing with Keisuke though. When Keisuke was doing that in the other replay, if he ended up in a situation where a knee overcommits, that electric would have hit him, and that little bit of delayed time and accomplishes the same thing right here. So one thing that Akari likes to do compared to Keisuke, Akari likes to, like when a game starts, one thing that you'll notice with him is that he really likes to try and feel out the opponent by just letting them do stuff and see like where their mind is headed. So for example, with what happened right here, let me rewind this. So he sees that knee is, doing like he hit him with two lows pretty much already. And he sees that knee is like playing a little bigger right now, like he using up back two or whatever it is from Paul. So he does one jab and then he does up forward three. Why does he do up forward three? Because when he did the one jab, right, he's +1. But that's small frames. And he saw that knee has been using lows and he's been using bigger mids. So he says, okay, well, at least this is what I'm thinking, because this is the way that I would think about it. But he says, okay, so the thing that I've seen represented so far, I've seen low and I've seen bigger mids. So I can do up forward three to try and deal with both of those. Now let's look at this again. This is what I'm talking about with this stiff backdash. Now you don't have to do this. This is just an easy way to change your timing. So he does 3 stiff backdashes, right? He does a a sidestep left because he's on player 2. Then he does another backdash. Then he does wave block and the down forward 2. So, like I was saying in the K-Skate video, that the down forward two is not a homing move, right? It's just a move that happens to be homing. The way you're supposed to use it is as there's two main ways to use down forward two. Use it as a timing read, like counter hit launcher. So because it's a mid, so you use electric as a counter hit launcher, use down forward two as a counter hit launcher, but down forward two is a mid. Down forward two is only minus 12, so it's not that like big of a risk compared to other moves, right? But it's also something used if somebody is rotating mash and they're rotating if they're rotating mash and they're rotating sidestep, you can use it to cover both of them. And again, it's not that big. It's not that big of a risk to do that simply because it's minus 12, right? So if we go back and look at this again, I made a mistake. So as you can see though, he didn't slow back dashes or whatever. They were very stiff, right? Needing to press a button. But if he pressed the button, he would have got counter hit because the timing had been changed. So let's look at this. So this is something I'll be talking about. Wait a minute, let me get my drawing utensil out, so to speak. Let me just sit here and draw this. So, do you see how he exerted the pressure right there? Because if I sit here and do this, so look, Paul backdash, right? So let me just do this. So Paul backdashes. He's right here, right? So now he doesn't have the frames to whiff punish the electric, right? If I sit there and do this. So K-Skate does he does a twitch duck and he stands back up and then he does electric. But look, so Paul is here, so he could potentially whiff punish. Wait a minute, let me do this. So Paul is here, as you can see. The electric whiff, but he could not press a button on immediate timing because K-Skate has been doing these timing delays. So when K-Skate whiffs the electric here, right? Even though he can punish, Paul actually cannot really contest that because he's been doing these timing delays. So it's unsafe for Knee to try and contest the Ikari right here doing this. And notice that Knee is definitely aware of this because he did sidestep. So when he sidestepped into this foreground, he gave up those frames. So he doesn't have the ability to whiff punish. So that's why that was a good electric. That was a good electric right there. Called him on counter hit timing. See, I'm thinking that was an input error. I'm thinking he meant to do CD1 plus 2, but you know what happens.
Fight.
Now, if you notice, like I was talking about before when I said Ikari likes to fill people out, now he's getting more active. So, as you can see again, he tried to catch him on counter hit timing. Knee reads the timing and does sidestep, so he can't get a good whiff punish. There we go. There's the down forward 2 counter hit timing read. So that's that right there. And then Knee. So that might seem like a crazy read because let's be honest, it kind of is. But on the other hand, the information that Nee has so far, like right now, is that one, Ikari is trying to duck to deal with some of my options. So that's one thing that he's looking at, most likely. And number two, he hasn't really been using lows, so I might as well test out and see like what he's actually trying to do. Tried to counter hit him on entry. That's that round over. So here we go right here. There's a textbook electric. So let's look at this. Let me draw this out. Now we have this entire space right here, right? So standstill electric, and we have dash electric. So let me go back here one more time. And so pay attention to this. So as you can see right here, he's outside of his dash electric range. So dash electric, currently right here will be about here. So it will currently be about here, right? Now, for him to be in standstill electric range, he has to be here. So what does he do? He does his wave dash, right? So he wave dashes in, and then he gets his electric read.
Fight.
And then if you notice, he does wave dash and the deep dash to get the electric. He doesn't do two wave dashes. He does wave dash and the deep dash to get the electric counter hit. So the thing with this is that, again, when you play a mishima, you need to be trying to get complete mastery over your spacing. You need to be understanding exactly what the spacing is when you look at the screen. And that's really one of the most important skill sets to build. Okay, so let's go back again. Now look at it. Pay attention to this. We get one wave dash. We get a dash out of it. We get duck. So this delays his timing. And what a lot of people would do with against a mishima that understand the matchup, they'll put out a high right here. So say for example with Paul, if they have if he would have did like let's say Paul forward 2, because Paul forward 2 has low whiff recovery and it's active for a while. By Keisuke ducking, not only does he delay his time, and he also prevents himself from being checked with a high like that, right? So he would have had to do a mid. But doing a mid is risky because you can get counter hit by electric. So he does duck and then he does hell sweep. So this covers multiple options. That's another thing with Tekken. You need to be playing in a way as much as possible to cover multiple options instead of having to sit there and hard commit to defeating one particular thing. Hard to whiff punish, like I was saying. Okay, he did while standing 2 for some reason. That was another nice electric right there. Let's just look at the spacing. So, he did a very short backdash into the electric. So based off of, so look, Nee tried to like sidestep or something, or maybe it was an input error. I'm not sure. I can't tell you for sure. It looks like it could have been an input error, but Nee ends up sidestepping, right? And he ends up ducking because of his because of Paul's like, crouch dash or whatever it looks like. and Keisuke does backdash into electric. So that backdash took enough frames for him to get hit coming out of, like, you know, coming to stand up out of the crouch dash. So, and whether he did that intentionally or not, the thing is that it's just a free delay timing that you can like apply immediately. That was freaky camera work. They paid off the cameraman.
Fight.
So look. This is something else I was talking about last like review.
Fight.
So let's draw this. You can send all the way over here. Yes, I know that line is a little curved, but you can send all the way over here. As you can see, he did a wave dash into a standstill electric, and knee moved backwards. So based off of what knee has been doing, that's how you actually supposed to do a keep out electric or whatever right there, because knee has been moving back to avoid having to deal with this electric situation. Okay, so he's reading his timing with that. So as you can see, look at that. You see how he changes his timing? And he is moving back to avoid having to deal with that again. So when you have somebody that's scared to deal with your electric and it's just moving back, you do have free reign to start making decisions like that. Man, that's a cheap thing they added this season. Do you see? Look at this. Do you see the pressure he's exerting? Look at this. So, like, he did 2 wave dashes in the wave block. Knee is ducking because he had to sit here and try and disarm this mix-up. He messes up his electric and he gets down to it, whatever. Then he does wave block in the CD1+2. So essentially the implication is that you're going to be forced to press one way or another. And look. Do you see? But do you see how he's pausing his timing to try and get him in a situation where he can kind of hit him with electric? So you can visibly see that knee is having to play around that consistently. And it was the same thing in the Keisuke match, but the thing is that Keisuke uses CH counter hit electric more than Ikari uses it. Like, they use it very differently, but it's the same concepts behind it. Okay.
Time up.
There was no time to do anything right there, so you know, that was just how it goes.
Fight.
Okay. Probably playing slower again. Okay, so he's getting his timing mixed up now, right? And that FF3, if knee was the backdash on wake up, it could break his fuzzy guard. So you can see that he's doing his delay time on his electrics. Now, like I said in the last video, personally, and you can ask a lot of mishimas, this is actually good. Majority of mishimas do not care if you get hit or counter. I mean, if you get counter hit or you block the electric. The point is to enforce the threat. Primarily, we want you to get counter hit, but we want to enforce the threat to get you to deal with all other options. So because Ikari is knowing all these timing delays and all this other stuff with the electric, right? So he did that electric. Let me rewind this. So that's one electric. He backdashes, he goes back in, he does another electric. So that delays his timing because of the sequence of, you know, movements that he did. So he goes over here. So now knee is having to like stand up instead of ducking because he's like, okay, well, clearly he's trying to condition me to get hit by me. And see, as you can see, like that was just mental stack situation. So Knee didn't get a good punish because he he fuzzied it, so he ended up standing up to deal with it or whatever, so to speak. Okay, did 2-1 then.
Round 2.
2-2 on it.
Fight.
Okay, hell sweep. FF3. So this is the thing with Ikari that's very different compared to Keisuke, is that he's the type of player that is, I would say, is so confident in his counter hit electric usage and those other things that instead of directly pressuring you like a player like Boa or Keisuke would do, like where they will more directly pressure you, he's confident in his defense and his CH electric to the extent that he will sit there and allow you to do what you want to do just because he knows that he has you under threat of getting counter hit trying to do it. So it really disorients the opponent. Okay, yep. You see he's making, look, there we go. So look, this is what I mean when I say that a lot of good mishimas, we don't care if you get hit. I mean, if you get counter hit by or you block the electric, because the end result is hopefully going to end up the same. He's been using these electrics this entire game and spacing them so they're extremely hard to punish just to get this one counter hit at the end of the round and hopefully win the round. Well, I mean, he didn't win the round. I would have probably done Demon Scissors right now. I'm not going to lie, just to be grounded. Okay, he's trying to set up that electric pressure. That was a good FF4. That slower button made it so he got counter hit. Down 1+2, I was like pretty much buffed in T8. Okay, so he throws him to get the side switch. And then he catches him ducking. Yep. Okay, so he ducks that.
Round 4. Fight.
Okay, so that was an unfortunate whiff. An unfortunate, time to mess up that electric. Okay, so we get wall splat off the sweep. That's another thing that you need to be aware of on CASH. You need to learn your angles that sweep wall splats, and the wall splats very consistently in this game, so it shouldn't be too difficult, I would think. And then there's one of the payoffs right there. So you can wake up, block the electric. You don't want to do that, but you also don't want to fuzzy, because if you fuzzy, you can get hit with like, hell sweep, like a few different things. So Knee commits the duck. Casey does FF3, done deal. Even though like you could fuzzy that, you cannot fuzzy it like on reaction, so to speak. And then that's what I'm talking about with Kari being confident in his defense. He said, nope, there's no reason for me to have to engage with this currently. So I'm going to just sit there and wait it out.
Fight.
So, again, this is how you're supposed to use electric. As you can see, he waited, and he got his counter hit time. So this right here is also important. So this is another thing that you have to do as a mishima to actually be really effective. So he knows that Ni has been moving. He knows that he's been doing this. He knows that he's been doing that. So what does he do here? He does wave block. He sees that he sidewalks. So you can visually see that he sidewalked or whatever. So now you can do your counter hit electric timing. And then he does a dash or whatever. Ni doesn't want to contest because Kai, Kai says FF2. Like, he has a few different things to hit you for trying to contest that electric at that spacing. So there we go. So that's another beautiful electric. So this right here, again, let me just do this. Let me just go back to it. So he does this electric. He gets pushed like full screen pretty much, right? Keisuke does his wave dash, and then he does a deep dash electric. So one of the good things about doing that is if the opponent presses a button on a medium timing, if you do the deep dash, then you would get a whiff punish with that, because if the button doesn't have the range to hit you when you do the original wave dash before the dash, then it usually will whiff. So then you could get an electric punish. He does another electric. So Ni does crouch dash in, and then does wide stand in 1-2 or whatever. And as you can see, so let me just do this spacing real quick. So let me just do this real quick. Oh, wait a minute. Actually, let me let it play. So this right here, as you can see, you had it spacing as usual, right? So Kaz was here. The standstill electric goes here. Paul does not have the space to whiff punish. I mean, he doesn't have the what is it called? He doesn't have the range to actually get a decent whiff punish, because dash electric would be like right here or so, right? Even if you do deep dash, it would be like right here. As you can see, Paul is here. So he doesn't have this is how you actually do a keep out electric right here, because he can see, so Ikari is seeing that he's moving backwards, as I said before. Ikari is seeing that he's been moving backwards. So this is a safe thing to do, because if we go back here, well, let me erase this. So if we go back slightly, so you see that Ni is moving backwards, and he likes to move backwards in like I want to say groups of backwards movement, and he did sidestep after. So that means if we're paying attention to what the opponent is doing, that means that it's a safe read to do standstill electric right there, because if they move forward, then they're going to be caught off guard to an extent. And if they move backwards, then they can't get an actual whiff punish. So it would just punish them for moving forward badly, but it doesn't necessarily put us at like big risk. And then with this, he does heat electric. Heat electric had extended high crushing, because you don't have to actually just frame it. So you can sit there and do that to go under some highs. It's actually very cheap in this game if you can do that.
Round 2. Fight.
So that FF3 right there to break the fuzzy. And then he hits some more entry with the electric. Okay, so he reads that with a shredder kick. Okay, so that's unfortunate. So that was just around the all time, you know.
Fight.
So as you can see, like, knee has to play around this CH electric. FF3. Okay, so that was, again, this is just good electric spacing. This is just good electric spacing. Because you see that he's moving back. He seems to move back in, you know, like, quote-unquote sequences, so to speak. So if I'm paying attention, I'm aware of that. That means that this becomes a safe electric, even though he's technically in range to get, like, some type of whiff punish. Like, the odds are that he's generally going to be moving back or doing some other action that means that he doesn't necessarily have the frames to whiff punish this. That was just unfortunate. So he got his sweet fuzzy block. Happens to the best of us.
Round 4. Fight.
So look at this. Now pay attention to this. Pay attention to this.
Fight.
Let's look at this. So he makes his space, right? He makes his space. He goes back in. He leaves the spacing again. Now pay attention. Now let's draw this. So standstill electric right here, dash electric right here. So he's far outside of his optimal electric range. So what does he do? So he does this. So he does this first electric. This first electric is safe. So as you can see, it ended up pretty much in that standstill electric space, right? This first electric is safe because of spacing. There's no way Paul. Oh, wait a minute. There's no way that Paul can be over here and get a whiff punish. There's just no way that that's going to happen. He's not getting a whiff punish there. Like, it's just not going to happen. So now Paul has to move forward because, you know, you realize, okay, well, I'm not going to get a whiff punish. So what happens next? He does 2 wave block, right? Then he does a 3rd wave dash into a dash electric. And knee is sidewalking. So he doesn't have the frames to whiff punish. He does not have the frames to whiff punish right there. Mishima's all about give and take. So there we go with the delayed time and everything. So that FF4 is beating the fuzzy guard. And then that's another thing. So part of the reason knee is stepping like that is to avoid having to block that FF3. But that has its own challenges because, say, for example, that Ikari says, okay, well, I see that you're doing that. Let me just do wave block into electric to beat your sidestep or whatever. Then he has to duck. But if you do that, you can do wave block into FF2 to hit them for ducking. Okay, so, you know, he just filling out the timing and stuff. And then I think that's the end. Yeah. Well, you know, I suppose you could say that it wasn't necessarily the best showing for Ikari, but I think we got, you know, some good stuff off of that. Potentially I might start like trying to review. I might start trying to review 2 first to 2s in these videos, just to like have more data available. But I don't want these videos to be too long. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, I could just review 2 first to 2s and then split the video in half. But, you know, I'm not necessarily trying to have these videos be too absurdly long. But yeah. I think that'll be it for this one. Hopefully I'll catch y'all later.